Welcome to another video, ladies and gentlemen. How many of you are familiar with the Geneva Convention? Alright, if you're not, let's take a look so you could familiarize yourself with it before we get into discussion, because I think it's a key point that a lot of people seem to be missing when it comes to this conversation considering Israel versus Hamas. So let me get off camera for a moment. And let's take a look at this document, right? So it says here, civilians in areas of armed conflict and occupied terrorists are protected by the 159 articles of the Fourth Geneva Convention. Civilians are to be protected from murder, torture, or brutality, and from discrimination on the basis of race, nationality, religion, or political opinion, right? So that's pretty cut and dry. That's clear. Let's go a little deeper. It says the Geneva Conventions are international treaties that limit the effects of war. They protect people who are not fighting, including civilians, medics, aid workers, wounded and sick soldiers, wounded, sick, and shipwrecked military personnel at sea, prisoners of war. Right? The Geneva Conventions prohibit murder, mutilation, torture, taking hostages, unfair trial, cruel, humiliating, and degrading treatment. The Geneva Conventions also require the wounded, sick, and shipwrecked to be collected and cared for, hospital and safety zones to be established. You see, this right here is key. For the wounded, sick, and aged, children under 15, expected mothers, mothers of children under 7. Right, so all these are parts of the Geneva Convention. Now, taking that into consideration, let me come back on screen for a minute. Taking that into consideration, what is happening in Gaza? Does it sound like it is in keeping with the Geneva Conventions? Simple question. It's a yes or no answer. Now, if the answer is no, then we have a problem, do we not? Because it seems like people think, oh, well, Israel was attacked by Hamas, so it's okay for Israel to go in and just blow this place completely to bits. That's not how it works, though. If you're in a bank, right, you're there with maybe 25 other civilians. You're a civilian yourself. 4 guys come in, they have automatic rifles, they start shooting up in the air. It's a robbery. It's a bank robbery, right? Now, they're not necessarily after you. They're after all the money that's in the bank. Granted, understood. However, you have to comply with their demands at that time, right? So you got to probably throw your phone in some sort of collection plate or whatever they have, garbage bin, right? Your device is in there so you can't call the police. Now, let's say some enterprising bank employee hits the buzzer, right? As soon as they notice this happened, cops are on their way. When the cops get there, you're in the bank, you're still a hostage, the guys are collecting the money. Cops are outside, robbers inside. What is your hope as a hostage? Are you going to hope that they come in there and kill everything? Everybody? Or are you going to hope, well, maybe they have some snipers in play, going to take these guys out, and hopefully none of us get killed? Isn't that always the hope? No matter what the situation, I'm talking about real life, in movies, whatever it is, it's always we have to minimize collateral damage. Like, we don't want to kill a bunch of people that have absolutely nothing to do with these guys in the bank holding guns. Tell me if this is your understanding from this clip that you're about to watch.
In crocodile tears blame it on Israel when the entire blame is on the Palestinians, Hamas, for using their children as human shields, and then using their children as shields to permit the killing of Israelis.
Don't accuse me.
What is Hamas's charter?
Yeah. I have the same outrage when Palestinian babies are killed, when Jewish babies or Israeli babies. I want you to have the same indignation when Palestinians are killed.
Not when they're killed. Not when.
You heard what Alan Dershowitz said? It shouldn't be the same outrage when Palestinian babies are killed as to when Israeli babies are killed. Does that make sense to anybody viewing this? Babies, right, who are not engaged in war, who are civilians, which they claim is collateral damage, which we know is BS. But he says it shouldn't be the same. Now, is that in keeping with the Geneva Convention and what we just discussed?
They're killed by Palestinians, when you can't make a moral comparison. When Nazi kids were killed in the bombings of Dresden, I didn't have the same comparison when Jewish kids were put in gas chambers and crematoriums.
Well, that's because you, Alan Dershowitz, are not human. You're a monster. That's all that needs to be said.
You're a professor of theology. Don't you understand the moral difference between deliberately murdering a kid and having collateral damage because there are human shields? You're running for president of the United States.
So there's a difference between deliberately murdering a kid and accidentally murdering a kid. So if you're in a shootout on the street and you hit somebody by mistake, not the person that you were aiming at, does the law say, oh, well, we understand that was a mistake, so, carry on? The only people that get qualified immunity are police. In any real situation, right? Any situation, even those portrayed in film, TV, etc., the object is never for collateral damage to be so vast that you have more civilians dead than you have the bad guys. How does that make sense? Anybody? The cheap seats in the back. Do we have an answer?
What would you do? Let me tell you. Let me ask the question. Let me ask the question.
Okay.
What would you do if if terrorists were firing at American children in America, and the terrorists were hiding behind Palestinian children? Would you allow the killing of Americans to continue, or would you go and get the terrorists, even if it meant possibly collateral damage on Palestinians? What would you do?
Before Cornel West is even allowed to answer that, let me tell you what I would do. You know how many special forces teams there are in the military, within the Army, within the Navy, the Marines? You know how many special forces teams there are? You know how many members these teams have each? What would it take to perform a surgical operation of a few of these teams to go in there and get the actual perpetrators, if you know who they are? Now, if you don't know who they are, your resort is to just carpet bomb the whole place and hopefully hit a target. You're going to blow up mosques, marketplaces, hospitals, anything in between, because you're hoping that, well, they're supposed to be here. We don't have any direct intel, but they're somewhere over here. So let's just bomb the whole place and hopefully we'll get them. That is the height of stupidity. And anybody who would even dignify that with some sort of retort or response, you have literally maybe 2 brain cells working. And as my man said, they're both fighting for 3rd place.
Exactly what I would do. First, Truth and morality tend to be two casualties in any context of war. I would want to tell the American people the truth. I would tell them what the context is, how we found ourselves in this situation. I would not jump for a military invasion and a genocidal attack on a
genocidal attack
on Gaza.
No, it's not a genocidal
where are they supposed to go?
When you're
where are they
killing
supposed to
terrorists.
go? But this is like Warsaw, 1943. Where do they go?
Where do they go?
Yes.
Let me tell you where they go. They go to the UN. UN is keeping
from Gaza to Geneva?
They go to no. The UN has places in Gaza. They go to the Rafah crossing.
11 UN people have been killed in the last few days.
They go to Egypt. They go.
Egypt,
wait a minute.
Get out.
Let me make another thing clear. Gaza City is very dense, but Gaza itself, the Gaza Strip, there's lots of room. The Israelis have said, get out of Gaza City. Go to Rafah.
That's a lie. That was only after the bombing. After the initial return of some 6,000 rockets. This is when all of a sudden you hear, oh, well, you need to leave Gaza in the next 24 hours. Yeah, after you already bombed the place to smithereens. Now you're telling people they should leave. But again, Israel is a superpower. They have, hundreds of thousands of troops. You mean to tell me there are no special forces teams that could have went in there? You have no intel on where these people are, so your only an option is to bomb everything. Because I am yet to hear about all the Hamas casualties, right? The casualties of hundreds of people, women, children, right? Where are the Hamas casualties? What do they have to show for their efforts? This sort of brutality is what you'd expect from the SS soldiers, right? From the Nazi regime. But you're trying to get Cornel West to co-sign that? Why would he co-sign that? When you clearly lack any sort of humanity for civilian suffering on the other side.
Go to Khan Yunis. Go to other places. And you know what Hamas is saying?
With no water, no food, no electricity.
You know what Hamas is saying? Hamas is saying, don't go.
Well, I'm not here to defend Hamas.
Well, you are here.
I'm not defending Hamas.
Wait a minute.
Don't you ever lie on me like that, brother. I'm defending the suffering of Palestinians.
I want to hear
Hamas itself committing war crimes.
I want to hear you.
Nobody cares what you want to hear, Alan Dershowitz. You just lied on this man to his face. You are here to defend Hamas. What are you, slow? He says he cannot stand to see the human suffering and casualties on either side that are not called for. Again, we stick to the principles of the Geneva Convention. Even though one side is not, concerned about civilians, supposedly Hamas, right? They're not concerned about civilians. As the other side of that coin, being Israel, when you attack, you cannot just go and say, oh, they don't care. All right, so we don't care. How is that supposed to work exactly? Because what it sounds like is that these people are war criminals who have just used the Geneva Convention as toilet paper. That's what it sounds like to me.
Anybody who commits war crimes are barbaric. I'm saying that explicitly, but I want you to say if the Israeli Defense Forces are killing children, are they barbaric too?
No.
Are they ever barbaric?
No. If they target children.
Yes. Have they ever targeted children?
They have never in the history
78 years.
have they ever targeted a child
you got to
deliberately.
Get off the crack pipe.
I agree with Cornel West when he says get off the crack pipe.
I myself couldn't agree more. Alan Dershowitz needs to give up the crack pipe. What exactly are you thinking? First of all, you're trying to equate Brother Cornel's comments to saying, well, you're here in support of Hamas. Why would he support Hamas? I myself, I have no dog in this fight. Right? I'm here in America. Neither of these places I've never even been, right? But the human side of it, to see the suffering. If you watch my last video, right, you see this child's face, cut up and holes and blood, just crying, right? You see places getting bombed like it's no big deal. And then you have these people in Hollywood, all these Jewish people, saying, oh, yeah, we support Israel. Yeah, but what are you putting your support behind? What about all the people that have absolutely nothing to do with Hamas, who are just regular folk? And there's talking heads and pundits out there that'll say, oh, if Hamas was voted in by such a large majority, that it means that, by and large, the majority of these people support Hamas. Okay, so the kids voted Hamas in? All these young kids, they voted Hamas in. You see, anytime I see stories where people are like trying to slide over the fact that there's a lot of collateral damage, to me, something is wrong with this person up here. This person does not have a conscience. And if it's okay for you that your people are killing children on the other side that are innocent, then why in God's name should anybody care about what's happening on your side? Why are you seeking support? Because what this is going to lead to is a situation where the other side is going to be like, you know what? We need to go to the nuclear option. Oh, we need to go to the chemical option. Because right now they're really playing with us. It's a war crime. That's why you have the Geneva Convention. If you engage in these behaviors contrary to the Geneva Conventions, then yes, you're a war criminal. I don't care if it's the IDF or Netanyahu, whoever. You're a war criminal. The object is supposed to be leave the civilians out of it. Let's target the actual people. Let's send a surgical strike team. Anyways, I don't want to make this video too long, but I hope you get the point. You can see how vehemently opposed that Cornel is to Alan Dershowitz's point of view. He feels nothing for the Palestinians. Cornel, on the other hand, he feels for them. I feel for them too. As I said, they're not my people. Not my people. We have nothing in common except red blood. That's it. Not the same ethnicity, but people are struggling. People are suffering. People are dying. Who would take joy in that? Who exactly, apart from a demon straight out of the pits of hell? Ask yourself that very important question. Anyways, anytime I'm on here, somebody saw this video recently and actually mentioned what's in the background. Always remember this, right? Remember the premise of these movies, because it has a lot to do even with the reason that I'm on here in the first place. But I hope you liked the video. If you did, please hit the like button for the YouTube algorithm. And of course, if you're here on YouTube, be sure to subscribe to the channel, right? Anytime I drop a video like this, you'll be in the know. Of course, make sure you hit the bell for all notifications. That's very important. And of course, share it with your friends and family. You don't share it, you keep quiet about it, you just watch it. You're like, oh, I can't share this. This is too spicy. Then the word doesn't get spread like it should. But I think people need to see this, right? Know where people actually stand. Until next time. Peace.